Can you tell I'm not usually the guy who controls the screen? Guys, it's Paul from the North End. Hello, everybody. We're here to talk about football and not a lot of games to cover. So we're going to talk about the worst things in the modern game, which might turn into a bit of a rant from an old Scottish guy like myself, but maybe not. I'm not sure. I'm not alone tonight. Tonight, joining me is my friend Azaz coming on to the screen. What's up, my man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
You know, it's international break time. That's my least favorite kind of football period.
Mhm.
I got shortchanged. I feel like whenever you have a week or a weekend where there's only 4 or 5 games played, and then there's going to be 2 weeks of no like games at all. Nobody really talks about it, but like that's almost like 3 weeks of not seeing club football,
Mhm.
and that sucks. That's almost like a summer
Yeah.
dramatic.
Well,
You get what I'm
it's
saying?
half the summer. It is. It's half the summer break, and yeah, like we ended up having a great game against Nottingham Forest, but like in the build up to it, like I was feeling a little bit like we have so much momentum. I think people who watch the show now, I'm a Liverpool fan. We have so much momentum in the league that I was a little bit like, no, I don't want the FA Cup and then a break. Like I just want another league match or something. So I totally feel you on that, bro.
I shouldn't say I hate it. The FA Cup is just it's like a Diet Coke. It's something, I guess. Like
Hmm.
cool. Like I watched your game against Nottingham Forest, and I was like, this is kind of entertaining. Like I was definitely
Yeah,
rooting for the underdog, and that
of
like
course.
I had a little bit of skin in the game, but it still felt like I don't know. It just wasn't fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, the team are your namesakes as well.
Yeah, and James Garner was playing against you guys, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to adopt him. He's going to be
Yeah.
when he makes his debut for Man United. I'm going to be
Hmm.
the proudest person that he's never met. Like
Love it.
bawling in my living room in Toronto just because he's worked so hard to get there and he's so good.
Yeah.
James Garner is so good.
You sound like Robbie Savage about his son on
Oh
606.
Christ. You
Yeah.
I if my son ever if the roles were reversed and I was like watching my son play, I'll choke up even thinking about it right now. I'll cry if my son runs out and plays like Timbits football here in Toronto.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um Timbits is a donut. We call our leagues after pastries. It's a Canadian thing. Don't get mad at us. I see you're rocking the Canada jersey, by the way. That's a touch
I,
of class.
I I am, man. Super proud of what is happening over here. Obviously moved here. Football being my biggest passion, which is why we talk about it multiple times a week. And WhatsApps are blowing up and stuff, and it's always about the game. But you know what? Nothing's really a secret in football anymore, right? Like usually,
Yeah.
pretty much know what's happening. But what Canada have done this time round, to be leading CONCACAF. America and Mexico are good teams. Like they're good teams. We've just had a great campaign, and there's just so much momentum, so much excitement. Going to the game on Sunday, actually. So,
So am I.
um, yeah, okay. So we might meet in person,
Yeah,
mate.
man.
I feel like we should. Yeah, I'll definitely give you a shout when I'm there.
You know what? It's crazy because
Um,
like I was a buddy of mine helped me pick up the tickets, and I was like I was kind of floored by this because it's like Canadian soccer in not great. It's not summertime. Like it's gonna be a rough
it's
day.
gross
He was telling
outside.
me that the price of the ticket, if you scalped one of the 2 tickets I got, would cover the price of the ticket I kept and then the beers that I would be drinking that day. Like that's how
Wow.
much the scalp increase is gone for. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like that's insane. And it got me really
Yeah.
excited because now all of a sudden, like I feel like I've got the hot ticket that day, which is
You do
nuts.
though,
But
mate, because if we win tomorrow, um, then Sunday's a full blown celebration. Like even going into it, it's a celebration.
yeah, yeah,
But if
yeah.
we don't get the result tomorrow, then we can qualify on Sunday. So like either way, it's gonna be the greatest occasion for Canadian soccer in 40 years by the
I
time
want to
it
walk into that
happens, right?
stadium feeling very comfortable that either way we're good. Like you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to
Well,
have the
we'll know
nerves.
tomorrow. Yeah, yeah, we'll know
Let's just
tomorrow,
do it,
right? Like
Canada. Just
if
give myself.
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to be stressed. I'm bringing my old man. Like neither he and I have the hearts because we're old and Scottish and like fried food. We cannot handle the stress of watching us qualify on Sunday. Go into Sunday already qualified. Let's go, Canada!
Yeah.
Come on. I'm excited.
So who's the
Okay,
Dutch
so I'm gonna
team?
pop some stuff up on screen, and we're gonna talk very briefly
Okay.
about the actual games that happened on the weekend. There's not a lot. I am gonna humble brag a little bit though, and say that when we were here talking about these games, I said Wolves versus Leeds had the makings of a high scoring game. It
You did.
just felt like it was going to be two teams that had played a lot up to that point,
Yeah.
and it's going to get a little bit wild. And I wasn't expecting this though. This game was nuts. This was straight up madness. Wolves blow a 2-0 lead at half and let Leeds get back into the game. And every goal had this element of like championship, like sloppiness about it.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and what a way to start the weekend, right? Like it was just such a great way to start any weekend going in with a match like that. Yeah, like Wolves were comfortable. Leeds are playing really well though right now. Like even if they're not getting the result, they make so many chances. And even in this game, before they were actually like putting the ball into the net, there was multiple chances as well. Obviously, the game changed particularly when Wolves went down to 10 men because there's teams that get better with 10 men, and Wolves' system is not really built to be one person down. I feel Chelsea are harder to break down with 10 men because they just stop attacking and they're so well drilled. Tuchel gets them organized. That's definitely not Wolves' system. And then even the way the goals like ended up going in as well, with like things would come off the post and like there'd be like a goal line clearance and then a near miss and then someone bundles it in. Fantastic advert for the Premier League, and great match.
Also highlights Ruben Neves had 2 man of the match performances for Wolves and then gets injured in this game, doesn't play the second half, I don't think, and then all of a sudden all that control they had in the first half goes out the door. People who've ever watched the show may know this. I'm a huge Neves fan. I think he's fucking awesome. I think for my team, Man United, and possibly Arsenal, he would be such a good fit. And what he does with the ball, how composed he is with the ball, is part of why I want him. But he is just a young guy who looks like he's been around for 30 years. Like there's a character and a leadership that he kind of has always conveyed. And it might be because he ages so badly. Like he actually looks like he's 30, but he's only like 24 or 25.
24,
and he has always looked like a 30-year-old, no matter how old he's been. But I just think he's just so quality. And sometimes you need to see a team kind of completely collapse in the second half when he's not there to like really register how important he is to Wolves. I want him. I want him on my team so bad. That's all I'm going to say.
So right at the end of the window last year, in the summer window, there was like a lot of talk about United being into him. Hey, I guess the Ronaldo thing just ended up taking precedence because
it's always like how much stock you put in talk.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like there's always talk. Like there isn't a midfield player United aren't attached to because everybody knows we need a midfield player. So it made total sense that there would be talk that Ruben Neves would be on our list. He was also being talked about to go to Arsenal as well, and it's like.
Please no.
I mean, this is the season though. I can't see him staying past this point of his Wolves time.
Yeah.
Like he goes with their blessing, I imagine. And I also have this theory that the Wolves model is that they promise profile and exposure for young players and to get them to come to Wolves as opposed to like anywhere else. Cause a lot of the guys they've signed should be going other places. But then they cannot hold them ransom as well. They have to let them go for a decent price. That's how 100%. Jota went to Liverpool. Like they just cannot grip the cage too tightly. Well, joining us late is Luke. Here's Luke, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, boys?
It's fucking Luke.
Hey, Luke.
Oh my god, timekeeping. Guys, sorry, my boss was making me work late. So you're
self-employed. That's bullshit.
Exactly. My boss was making me work late, so I
don't accept your apology. Tell your boss that you can shove it. I'm going to segue right into the next game then. Aston Villa lose 1-0 to Arsenal. Luke, Aston Villa
I'm leaving.
Fan.
Good to see you. Good night. God bless.
No, that's it.
You know what? A poor performance. I think this season really is written by this game for Villa. Like, we can't seem to beat teams above us, and for a team that wants to progress up the table, it's very important. Now, Arsenal are a well-drilled team, but they were without a couple of key players. And they didn't really do a whole lot. Like, they played okay. And if you boys saw the game, like, the goal was kind of lucky. Like, I think it was Martinez saves that most times, but I think he just doesn't see it. And because he doesn't see it, he just can't get down. So, and we just didn't really do enough. But there was, as I said in my five notes from the weekend, there's key things that are starting to become a bit worrisome. And I think the biggest thing for me is still that we can't seem to get that forward position sorted. And I think of the best options we've seen, Ings and Watkins playing together seems to be the best option, although they're just not as prolific as we may have hoped when we signed Danny Ings randomly just before the transfer window closed. It was it's a bit of an interesting one, but there is issues, but I think this is definitely a rebuild. I think watching this game, every Villa fan and I think Steven Gerrard went straight back up and said, listen guys, I'm not messing around. If you want me sticking around, like, this summer we have to sign duff, and that's it.
I watched your 5 things learned. I watched your 5 things learned, and I got a question. Like, can you talk about Douglas Luiz without mentioning his girlfriend? Because every single time you talk about Douglas Luiz and like any dip in form, you're always like, I'm not saying it's her fault, but I couldn't play football if I was dating her. That's all I know.
Well, obviously that's ridiculous because I'm a world-class player and my form wouldn't dip. But Douglas Luiz is a very good player, and he has had dips. And this is a bit of a strange one, and he has been very vocal. The only reason I know so much about this is because JP California is obsessed with this woman, and she is, not that he doesn't love his girlfriend, of course, he definitely does, but there is definitely something, there's something going on, and this is one of the things that you talk about in football, don't you? And I'm sure you boys would remember over the years of, you'd hear things about Ferguson having a sex ban for the players, and Sven-Goran Eriksson, was very keen on the WAGs weren't allowed into the hotel, and all these little things. And I don't want to say it's because of that, and I'm not going to, but there is something different with his game. There is something that is missing from his game. Now, it could be that he's feeling less competition. Marvelous Nakamba was starting to play pretty well, and he picked up a bad injury. And I think, at the moment on that team sheet, that position really is his. But I think giving him a reason, he needs to have a bit more venom and show, because now very strongly Villa are being linked with Calvin Phillips. And if it's not Calvin Phillips, it will be Basuma. You will see a big money defensive midfielder come in summer. I have absolutely no doubt. Phillips, I don't know. Like, I think people are getting really excited. But if United and Paul, I don't know. But if United comes sniffing around, surely he goes there. Do you think that's going to be a United move, Paul?
I think Chukwuemeka from Monaco is really being talked about a lot. He kind of fits the model because he is younger and his ceiling is possibly higher than Phillips. Yeah. And he's not coming off of like a long, lengthy injury like Phillips is. But I mean, again, and we'll talk about this about what's the worst thing about modern football. Everybody knows a big club like United need a central defensive midfield player or center mids. So therefore, everybody of quality is being attached. So you can't really tell who's who and what's what. I mean, Phillips is a Leeds player, so I'd be a little surprised because that typically, other than Cantona, doesn't really work that way. Oh, and Rio Ferdinand as well. I can't forget about him. Rio, I don't know if they even care about that. I like Phillips. I think his next step up is an Aston Villa makes some sense to me, but I think he could also do more than. Depending on who needs what at the time.
If it's not United, who is it? Let's run down the options. Not United, you go elsewhere. It's probably not Tottenham. Is it? Do they need him?
They always need a new defensive midfield player.
Yeah, I think I've heard they're going to try and get Gilberto Silva out of retirement. Legend.
It could be West Ham to replace Declan Rice.
Now that is a potential. yes, that could be. But then, and then I suppose it's really the manager and the board's ability to sell Phillips on this dream of what Villa is wanting to do, and them saying, "Listen, I know West Ham have been playing great, and they're great, but they're 1 or 2 players away from falling back down, and we're building solid foundations. We've got a really young team. We think you adding 1 or 2 of the pieces on a good big money contract, I think is nice for you, Phillips. And I think if you sell him on that dream, then maybe, but." I don't know. This
you can also sell him on the opportunity of finding true love. Douglas Luiz did.
Yeah. He did, and look how that's going for him. So
he did. Leicester host and beat up on Brentford 2-1. 2 stellar goals by Leicester, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Madison with a beautiful free kick from outside the box, and I'm going to butcher his name because he's Belgian, but Castilla with just a rocket coming in off the left and top bin with his right foot. Amazing goal. I thought this game was kind of wrapped up nice and tight, but Brentford have more durability lately than they had, say, maybe about 10 games ago when they were losing everything pretty easily. I feel like the story for me here is more than anything that even with a loss, I feel like Brentford are definitely going to escape any of that gravity pull to the bottom 3. I thought there was a chance that they were slipping so aggressively, but Eriksson has turned them around. And even with this kind of a loss, I thought I saw enough there to be like, this is a good team. They've got some fight to them. But I mean, Leicester,
I agree with that. I thought Brentford were awesome, to be honest with you. Like,
really?
It was not a comfortable win. It was like, I didn't see the whole match, by the way. I saw it more on like the highlights, but like extended highlights. Felt like they were to be honest, it felt like they were the better team. Obviously, highlights skewed towards like chances and like, just like good plays and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I think Brentford are I definitely don't think like they're too good to go down. I just think that there's 3 worse teams than them this year. The fact that they've already got to the 30-point mark, and like, where do Watford and Burnley get their wins? Burnley have got a few games in hand, obviously.
Can we just admit, Azaz,
you got it right now.
Yeah, that we're all ready to see the back end of Burnley. I've been saying this in the pod, man, for years. I can't stand this goddamn football team. I love Dyche. It's nothing against him. It's just they're the worst.
I can set my watch to Luke saying he hates Burnley and then immediately saying he loves Dyche. It's like it's like first name, last name. It's so predictable. You're like, I fucking hate Burnley. I love Dyche though. That guy, he's such a warrior.
Oh, he's great, man. And he was on shout out. Obviously, I'm sure they'll cross promote as well. And the Peter Crouch podcast, because we've got similar viewing numbers now. So I listened to when they had him on, and he's hilarious, man. Like, he's talking about he was at raves with some of the guys, and like, he's just no nonsense. And you see, like, the guy that you see on the TV is definitely the guy he is, and I think that's why he's done so well there. But they have been scraping survival, and they just don't offer anything for English football. I just find them so meager. Yes, it was look, Burnley, but fuck, now I'm bored of it now. Like, let them go. I tell you what would be a really interesting story is Luton. Luton are sniffing around a playoff position right now. Oh no, they're in the playoff. They're sniffing around automatic.
Yeah.
And Luton, this is a team that I think a couple of years ago, I think they were as low as Division 2, which is like the third division down. Like, it's incredible, and I'm pretty sure one of Luton's entries for the stadium is through an actual house door, like the actual stand, because they couldn't get planning permission to destroy the houses, so it's literally through a house. It's now that would be interesting, and it would happily replace whatever Burnley offer. And because Ben Mee fucking killed Wesley, our Brazilian, who I always had an issue with anyways, but yeah, I just don't like them. I think they're dirty players. I think they've scraped survival. I think this is it for them. But again, I've said this for like 3 years and they survived, so I don't know.
So this word association that went wildly off topic went from Brentford to Burnley to Luton to side doors. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, amazing.
But who doesn't love a good side door?
Way to stay on. Spurs just just took it to West Ham 3-1. I mean,
Great game.
This was a straightforward win. I don't think West Ham have been playing particularly well for a while now.
No.
It's not that. I don't know how to explain this. Yes, it's good. It's a good, solid win that Spurs needed. Yes, Sonny is playing well. Harry Kane is playing well. Finally. I just found some of the reaction from some of the Spurs fans. It's a little too, your lows are so low and your highs are so high. Just find a middle ground and just stop killing yourselves from week to week. Like, I cannot emphasize how much everybody seemed to be talking about how, like, oh, top 4 for years to come. We could be challenging for top 3 next year. Oh, Conte is a genius. Like, it was a good win, but 3 games ago, a lot of them were throwing themselves off bridges because everything is shit and Conte can't win with his team and we're garbage and it's a hot fire. It's just too much. Spurs, it's just too much.
It's emotional.
It's very emotional. You know, last year when Jose was in charge, before Van Dijk got injured, I actually had a very good friend of mine who, you know, he goes to like the Tottenham pub here and big Tottenham fan. He actually at one point said, I think we're the best team in the league. I think we can win the league. And I was like,
it's incredible.
What are you like? I'm like, wait. And this is again before the Derby injury, like the Merseyside Derby injury for Van Dijk. So I'm like, wait, like never mind Man City. Like, are you better than us? Like we're the reigning champions. And he's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, how do you get that? And he's like, however, like player for player, da da da. And I'm like you're doing it to yourself, mate, because like it's not gonna happen. Like, and you know, they were like top of the league for like October, November, and then like we beat them, and then obviously the Jose thing all burned down. So like it doesn't even take much to get the excitement running as well, right?
Oh, it's honestly, man, you'll see in our WhatsApp messages, and for people who aren't in it, who are listening or watching, that you can't see our WhatsApp messages, but it is just, for me, the biggest fun of my week is just finding moments to just pick on Brian, and he makes it so deliciously easy to do. It's not even hard. He bites at everything. If Brian was a fish, he literally would not survive a day because he'd just bite everything that came in. It's unbelievable, but you're right.
Sometimes I don't even poke him. I just let himself like shit on his own team. It's nobody does it harder than he does. And like to himself, like it's too much, guys. It's just too much. Find a middle ground. It's great. Again, going back to the win, 3-1. Spurs beat West Ham. They are still in the race for top 4. It's an outside shot, but they're still in the race. But the way they're reacting after that game, it was too much, guys. Too much. I'll tell you what else is too much. The hair on my back, chest, and rest of my body. That's what's too much. Just too much. Not by 20%, although the 20% discount that we're going to offer our viewers could help them out thanks to Manscaped. See that code up there? That tidy TNEP up in the top right? If you punch that into the Manscaped order system on manscaped.com, you get 20% off and free delivery because you watched the North End. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and they deserve it. And do you know what? I'm going to say it is a bit of a game changer. Like I've unfortunately seen Paul's scrotum, and it's enough to haunt the dreams of every man, woman, and child
that went astray. It was not as sinister as it sounds.
Nope, it was a wrong Google photo backup, and unfortunately, it went further back, and as did the hair on your back than it needed to. So thankfully, Manscaped have come in, and we've got a little bit about them for you, but we are very happy and excited to say that the North End podcast is now supported by the great team at Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. It offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Very, very specific, but it's true. And their performance package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Now, over 4 million men worldwide have trusted Manscaped with the exclusive offer, and this is a great offer. And just so you can see, guys, I've got it here with me, so I can actually give you a little look on it.
Oh my God, this is some shopping channel shit right here.
Look at
that.
this. This
Look
is
at the
beautiful.
professional hand model.
Look at that. I should have had my nails done, but sorry about that. And do you know what I love? Also, it's like I've actually got the box here as well. And look at that. Your balls will thank you. And any future
Beautiful.
mismatched email or text message.
It
from
comes
Paul
with a
will also-
deodorizing powder or spray, and it's magic.
Here it is. We have the Crop Reviver, and we also have this bad boy, the Crop Preserver, which is ever so important. You know, it's just good to preserve. And just when it can't get more exciting, the tools you've got. You know, your additional clipper. You've got your charging base, which is a lovely little touch. This lovely professional polished black finish. You've got the in-wall charger. And you've got this tiny little brush for I don't know, brushing very small guinea pigs, maybe shaving a guinea pig. Or it's clearly,
listen, guys, this stuff is not like low quality. So it's the 20% is going to help. Like, get that 20%, use that code, because this kind of thing, it lasts for a long time. You'll have to buy it once.
Yeah,
that hair down there is not going to go anywhere unless you take care of it. But you're always going to need to be taking care of it once you start, because I'll tell you, once you start, you can't go back to the bush.
No, and I don't think any of us want to. You know, it's
Crocodile Dundee told us anything. Once you go city, you can't go back to the bush.
And most of our education does come from old 90s films,
except for the sequel, Crocodile Dundee 2, where they start in the city and they go back to the bush. It's not a perfect analogy, guys, okay, but it's come on, it's my attempt.
No, but fuck them for that. They ruined it. But what didn't ruin it was Manscaped. And it just for anyone that is listening going, what the hell are they talking about? It is waterproof, the trimmers. It does help reduce foot odor. You know, a lot of smells associated with the hair there. The Lawnmower 4.0, trimmer helps reduce nicks, reduces the risk of ingrown hair. If you've ever had one, it's not fun. This is incredible how podcasts have moved on to talk about such truly horrendous things, but I'm so glad we have. So a big thank to Manscaped and our lovely little portable razor over here. There it is, doing its thing. Okay. There it is.
During the rest of the conversation, Luke will be below the table sculpting a lightning bolt. To be debuted at the end of the broadcast, and that's the kind of high quality entertainment you're going to get here at the North End, because this is the North End. Boys, it's not a busy week, so we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about something I think is worth having a conversation about, and that's the worst thing in modern football. The worst thing in modern football. That's just the question. We're going to throw it down like as a gauntlet. What is the worst thing about modern football? And
is there a prize for the
there's
person?
No, well, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of a prize. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We've got some comments already coming in.
Each other's balls.
Angel Matos, sorry, it's my best attempt. Are coming at us with how players react to real fouls versus fake contact is the worst thing about modern football. I agree. I find that annoying. My only salting peppering on that is that's not necessarily new. The Italian school of thought in World Cup in the 90s was that if somebody in the crowd sneezed, fall down.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a new aspect. It's maybe happening more theatrically than in the past, and there's probably less hard men that don't look for the dive. I don't know if it's
also
new.
a culture. It's also a cultural thing, right? Like, different cultures see it in different ways. So Angel Matos, I'm not sure what our watchers' background is there, but I've actually got friends who are from South America, for example, who think that tricking the referee is part of the art of football. So there's a cultural thing where we watch the Premier League, and in British football, it's definitely looked down upon, even though, like, Michael Owen, David Beckham, Steven Gerrard were some of the best divers around, and did it at World Cups and got penalties, decisive penalties as well. So it's, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where I agree with Forrest that it's not necessarily new. And I think that, like, if it's what we hate about football, we can put it in there, but I don't know if it's like modern football. I think that it's been around for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
I
good throw out. So then let's ask
No,
this.
100%. Yeah.
Around the table here. Luke, what is your take on the worst thing about modern football? We're a bunch of old guys sitting in the pub talking about, well, in my day, this is how we used to play the game. These players today, blah, blah, blah. What's your take? Like, what's the thing about modern football that drives you crazy and you think is the worst aspect of the game?
You could go on for ages, couldn't you? Like, how much can I get? Like, we talked about, some far ownership. Like, do we want to save that for another time, or can
I don't know. It's I'm not going to tell you how you should answer this question, man. That's your question. You answer the way you want.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna say that foreign ownership. I think it has its place. I think it's definitely helping progress game in the entertainment factor. But I also think it's now instilling a very dangerous rhetoric in worldwide football. We had FFP, the financial fair play, and that was meant to control all this. And as we've seen from the Man Cities and from the Chelseas who said fuck you to it, and now a little bit of what's happening to Chelsea. Carragher went on a rant, and I got to agree with him. It's the chickens, the financial fair play chickens come home to roost, and you're suffering. Oh God, look how hard it is. Well, we had all these conditions, and no, you were never hurt by it, and you appealed every ban you got, and you can manipulate your financial record so that the business takes a lot of the debt. So it's Emirates or Etihad or whatever it might be, and I think it's getting to a point now where it's not just foreign ownership, because that's always been around. It's been around since the 90s, the early 2000s, but it's the fact that the scandalous amount of money that goes in, and the lack of care about what is important in the game. And I think that is the problem, is that what makes this beautiful game, especially in England, so beautiful, is this point. It's the fact that we have developed a style of football that is so standout. Because there is beautiful football in Spain and incredible football in Germany, and such skillful play in Italy, but it's the English Premier League that is always number one. And how much are we going to ruin that by this push towards a really all money? And it's, I don't know. I just think the origin stories, the FA Cup legends, are we going to lose that? Are we going to lose that? So for me, at least, I'm concerned. And I'm concerned that, one of the leading bids for Chelsea is also a Saudi-backed investment company. And it's, I think this is a bigger topic, but I think for me, at least, how much control that can have, and basically take the competition out of the league.
I'm not going to object to anything you said. I do find that English folks do get a little bit more precious about the Englishness of the English Premier League, when for me, it's been a mosaic of players from so many parts of the world for such a long time that I don't know how fundamentally English the style of play really becomes. Like, the most successful coach of all time in the Premier League was a Scottish guy, and then the next guy over was a French guy, and like it's what I like about the game is that it can be so mosaic in that way. But when it comes to foreign investment comes in the form of billionaires who have silly money, who are not invested in the community. It's not like a local millionaire who really wants to do it right by the community. So there's a grassroots aspect to these clubs that I've always thought was charming and I liked. And it seems like that's going away with the big push for money.
They do things for the, I think we need to be very careful there, because Man City have done an awful lot for building the community around Manchester. Like, if you actually look at it, they've invested a lot in community centres. They've given a lot of underprivileged youth options to play football. So they absolutely do that. And same with PSG. I know that for a fact. But it's more the fact that if you like, I made this point on the pod a couple of, a year ago or whatever, when we talked about youth development with JP. And as I'm not sure if you know this, but a couple of years ago, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, the Man City youth won the Premier League 2, which was previously the under-23s. Skip forward 3 or 4 years later, and of that 50-man deep squad that made up all those people, there wasn't a single youth player still at Man City. And that is the point, is that yes, there is beautiful football in Spain, and there really is, but what makes English football English isn't the same way that what makes German football German, and if we are not giving the English youth the opportunity to play, where are they going to? If we are constantly just immediately looking at Spain and Italy and Germany haven't done that for the last 10, 15 years. It's the reason they've been so competitive, because they have strict rules on how many youth systems. But I just think with that investment, with that silly money, comes the ability to skip past rules such as an FFP. And we've seen it now. They've literally just thrown it out the window. And they're trying to, defend how it's going to help teams. I don't think it's only going to help the top of the top again. And it's going to make, I feel it's on the back of the failure of the Champions League to what we call it, the European Super League. I think of the failure of that, they've had to bring something in. But it's a contentious point, and I know it's not perfect. Let's shelf it and let's just say girlfriends and wives affecting.
No, man, you're fine. Like,
no, I think it's a great.
I don't think anybody is arguing that it's a weird part of modern football that we actually know where the money comes from, and that there's a certain morality that you have to deal with getting your head around some of that. And like, that's very modern. Like, that wasn't something you had to worry about before. Like, this isn't like wearing a Hugo Boss and not being comfortable with their German past. Like, this is Saudi Arabia is a legitimate moral conundrum for anybody who's going to cheer for what's supposed to be a fun distraction in your life. Like, so I think it's a legitimate issue. My take. So don't feel like you need to be defensive about it. I don't think you're saying anything contentious at all.
No, it's more that I just don't want it. I think, this could easily be a separate. I'm just thinking for the right of right now.
Sure.
Is it, but I know I stand by it.
My man, Angel's out there, and he's commenting that VAR.
That was going to be mine. So
let's do it, man.
I think I do think that, to me, foreign ownership is the worst, and the element that we didn't get too much into, because I do think it's a different podcast for another time, and there's going to be summer and international break, and we can totally deep dive into it.
Dip your toes into the subject, though. Dip your toes.
The one piece that I do want to just add to as well is, regardless of Forrest makes a good point about the mosaic. I love the word you used, but the local club, like the local culture of a club, is very local to that area, right? And that piece of it, the owners don't necessarily usually get right. There is the Man City one. PSG, I would argue, is actually not 100% a success, because even though economically they've driven certain things around Paris and whatnot, the fans don't love the team. Like, at least with Man City, and do Man City love the team? I don't know. Like, can they sell Etihad and all that stuff?
Or do they love the success?
Yeah. But like, the thing with the Paris fans is, like, actually they would punt some of these titles and like the big names to have some of their like Parisian culture back, and like they want more representation from people around, like players that have grown up at least in France or maybe even Paris. They always had like a bit of a proud history of bringing some of those people through, and so that's the piece I would say there. But again, I think that once I've dipped my toe, I'm going to take it out, and then I'm going to take it in the direction of VAR, because I think there's two elements of this that are really bad. One is PSG's. I'm not saying PSG's fans are not better than City's. I'm saying PSG fans are awesome, because they kind of reject this like all that glitters is gold kind of thing. Like, they're actually wanting a bit more soul. They want a bit more of their soul.
Do they? So, because I've not really seen it from the transfers.
No. But they don't control the
fans.
Transfers.
Don't dictate transfers.
The fans don't want Messi and like, maybe they'll want Mbappe, but they don't particularly want Neymar. They don't want those stuff. The actual Paris fans, the people who have just jumped on the train because of like the signings or because of the Jordan brand deals and stuff, they might want all these like big names.
Yeah, for sure.
But like the real Paris fans from Paris have actually had a few like mini protests and like really voiced their discontent at what Paris.
They want the Idrissa Gueye. They want the the Bernats. They want their David Ginolas, all that. They want that. They want some of the old.
Jerome Rotten and stuff, right? Like they want those kind of guys.
That's it.
Yeah. So VAR, the two things
Rondon.
I don't understand
So VAR.
is number one, how are we the only sport that got technology so wrong? And I know,
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I get it that it's like it's the people, not the technology. I understand the technology works, but like still, it's still ridiculous how wrong we've got it. So that's one piece
100%.
of it. And then the second piece of VAR that I really hate is the hiding. Like we don't hear what they say. Like, you know, like you can watch. Look, firstly, NFL have got like a Bose deal to like, so you can hear what people are saying. Like they took it so far to like capitalism that they made like a brand deal out of it. Meanwhile, like we don't get to hear anything about like how a decision was made. Like it should be beamed into our living rooms and around the stadium. Like what's the secrecy? Like
it's wild, isn't it? Because I think you could eliminate 90% of the conversations that you almost have to start thinking, and not to be, you know, a conspiracy theorist of football, but are they just doing that to fucking piss us off? Are they distracting us from something else? Because it as you said, it's been done so poorly, and that's the problem. Is the technology is working, bar, you know, Villa last year where the ball did cross the line, all that kind of stuff, but it just can't get it wrong. Like it cannot get it wrong. But why not, as you said, why not tune in and let us tune in via the TV feeds into the discussion with the referee and hear it? Because as you said, they do it in rugby. You hear them, they come in and they discuss it, and then they go you go to the ref. The ref goes, you know, so what's the rule? Should I? And they're like, award the try or don't award the try. You see it in tennis with Hawkeye, like it's literally, it shows you how it thinks. It's unbelievable. So I think that exactly is the issue. Great point.
Yeah. And you know, the thing that just to pick up, you put this really funny thing down. I'm just going to pick it up, the conspiracy theorist thing. Like what I do think is there is an element of they are protecting each other and protecting themselves, and it's like, you know, like I won't say who, like we won't make it out like who said what, and like, you know, it's kind of this like group mentality and group decision, but like this is professional sports. Like this is the biggest league, currently the biggest league in the biggest sport in the world. Like we ain't got time to be protecting people. And also, you know, you see some of the celeb refs as well who want to be like show people, and you know, like they actually kind of want to be part of the offering. Well then, you know, like if Mo Salah or Cristiano Ronaldo misses a penalty, like they have nowhere to hide. Like guy missed a penalty, like he's supposed to be like, you know, 500 grand a week and you can't even score from 12 yards. Well, same with these people, right? Like I know they don't make that kind of money, but like on one hand you want to be like a celebrity ref and like do weird hand gestures and like puff your cheeks out and like start to even become a bit of a modern term personal brand. But on the flip side, like you want to hide behind the decisions you make. Like, no, I'm not having it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And yeah,
who would want to be a ref though? I mean, like here's
Mike Dean.
My kind of weird sense of this. Officiating is a garbage job. It's a pretty thankless job. You got to run so much. The calls are so fine. The game is so fast. It's so easy to miss something. And the next day paper coverage, or what used to be the newspaper coverage, can be so incriminating and like who would want that gig? So the idea of having video assistant refereeing to insulate the referees from that, so the calls are more accurate. Like I got the intention of it. But then I keep going back to like, what was this really meant to fix? Like, yes, the calls are more accurate. If you're an angel's breath onside or offside, I don't think anybody would ever have wanted that level of accuracy. It's the 1 foot to 3 foot, like do your job linesman calls that we're trying to fix. And now we're introducing this whole thing that like, if there's a goal and I want to fucking just lose my mind about it, and watching football is a game of building pressure and then release. And that's the joy of it. I have to, in the back of my mind, consider it may not be a goal. Something may bring it back. And just as a viewer, as an experience, it's not fixing things. I don't think it's terrible. I think sometimes their calls are a little bit, really, whatever. I think more often than not, they get it right. But if I went back 3 or 4 years when this was introduced and I told people, like, the results are every single goal will be followed by a hold your breath moment by the people watching on TV and the people in the stands, would they even bother doing this? Like, what are they fixing?
Well, this is if you want to get real conspiracy theory, I'm going to pull this right in for added effect. Imagine, right? We know. Oh, I've lost my head. It's gone.
All I see is your prom picture.
You know what? And I love that. It's a great picture. I love it. I'm going to say it now. Anyways, the fact that we know the biggest thing in football right now is the rights to the English Premier League. It's the most. Like the money in football is crazy. It's the streaming and watch rights. So you want to be really crazy? Maybe it's all about just adding time to the viewing. Rather, because every game has got longer. Every game has got 4 or 5 minutes longer every game because of the decisions needed. It's more time that the user is fixed watching TV, more time for maybe commercials outside of certain countries. But maybe it's all about just time. More time means at the end of the year you can sell 1,000 minutes, or now you're selling 1,100 minutes. Maybe it's just money, Paul.
Where do you get your tinfoil for your tinfoil hats is what I wonder sometimes.
I have run out, so I'm just reusing. Hey, listen, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Paul.
Classic.
Prove me and my freshly scraped balls wrong.
They are being worked on right now under the table. Again, if you're just joining us, we are offering a discount to Manscaped, and at the end of this broadcast, Luke will be revealing what he's been doing underneath the table. We requested a lightning bolt earlier in the show, so that will be debuted at the conclusion of the show. We will be canceled immediately after because YouTube has rules. But yeah,
especially
stick around. Yeah. I'm gonna say what mine is, if that's cool with you guys, because
absolutely
it's gonna be a little bit tricky to unpack. I'm going to use a phrase that either you know or you don't know, but I'll explain the intent of the phrase, and it's clickbait. I really have a hard time with modern football because the news, entertainment, Twitter sphere of money being made covering the sport and all the aspects of the sport has been driven, like so many other industries, by short, concise, slightly controversial to very controversial like headlines that somebody will click on. And that drives site viewership and that drives revenue. So people are making money by just saying inflammatory shit. And they have been doing that for a long time. They used to do the same thing with the Sun and different publications, like press publications, but it was different. And there was some degree of semi-accountability to it. What happens now in modern football is that if a player goes through a bad run or has a bad conversation, or if there's a photo taken in training and it looks a little bit off, it drives this very quick narrative that everybody runs with. And it's everybody. It's the websites and it's the pundits. It just trickles right down so that these narratives that are unsubstantiated and almost always very negative are all people are reading. And then it just becomes this shit show of like, if my team loses, that's a negative vibe for me. I don't need all this other shit to follow it, and you can't escape it anymore in modern football. It's not a loss, it's a crisis. It's not an argument, it's he's going to be sold tomorrow. I literally hate it, and I can see it on like the Spurs guys are a good example of like where that narrative happens all the time. I'm a Man United fan, so I've been living with the negative narrative for like 10 years now. But the amount of stuff that just gets said that has no basis in reality and it's unsubstantiated, and players and managers feeling like they need to comment on it, even though like why it's clearly made up, that drives me nuts. That's something I'm having a really hard time with lately, especially because I think it's so unfair to players. Like Marcus Rashford's a young man.
Yeah, like, I was gonna say
he can't escape this shit now, and it started a year and a half ago, and he can't get under it. And
look at Jesse Lingard. He had for a while he was, he was this, he was that, and then starts coming out like it's not been easy for him. Like he's been looking after his family, like his mom was sick. I'm not sure if he passed away, but like, yeah, it's a brilliant point. But maybe I think, Paul, that could be. I think it's driven by the rate that we are consuming content in the modern day. It's like it's all about who can have the most content, and nothing really lasts longer than a day. 24 and even 24-hour news period is short these days.
Totally. The news cycle is not a cycle anymore. The news cycle is just a constant feed the beast. And I'll give you like a great example of like where I think this becomes unintendedly like, okay, the press, I kind of forgive them because they've always been monsters for clicks and money and revenue. I kind of forgive them. But then you got things like shows like this on YouTube, fan channels, like guys who are getting together to talk about their team and support their team, like Arsenal TV, who get increased viewership the more and more negative they are, the louder their ranting, raving reactions to things are, the more they call for blood and get Wenger out and these kind of nonsensical, like irrational reactions to things. They're getting viewers because of that. So now they're kind of leading the tone for other fans who watch them. And then you get like this underbelly of negativity that gets into the club eventually. And I think Arsenal is a good example because, they drove a manager out in a way that was like, I didn't think Arsene Wenger deserved the way he was driven out, but like that kind of negativity that happened online was so unique to modern football, and people are making money off it. There's an industry here. Yeah,
I think the fans, it's a great point, and they're not doing enough. And realistically, despite all this aggression and all this constant, the way that they've shaped that conversation, they're giving nothing back. For example, they're not doing anything like promoting a great product with 20% off and free shipping. Like there's nothing.
They do actually. They actually promote that same thing.
They do. They do.
We're not unique.
No, it's.
But do they offer the same code? No, they don't.
No, and they don't offer the lightning bolt.
No, exactly. The lightning bolt and the before and after of here's what it looks like to have awful, hard to look after hair. And Paul is a great example of when you've truly just given up and gone like, let's just get rid of it and save time. There it is, and hey, listen, who's looking better in an orange beanie? But I think it's a Paul, it's what you're great at, man. It's like that analysis. And I think it's probably actually, I think, if there was a prize, I think that's the number one because it is driving huge problems. And you've got to, I'll put it to you, Azaz, like as non-United fans, I think, and as as English guys, like it is horrendous what has happened to Marcus Rashford, considering what we know about the man himself and what he's done outside of football to the lives millions of young lives have been shaped by the programs he's run. He's an MBE. I'm pretty sure he's been talked about a knighthood already. What is he, Paul? 23, 24? He's still really young.
23, I think.
Yeah. And they're already talking he's going to be out this summer. Like it has to have affected him. It absolutely has to. So I don't know, man. I think it's terrible.
You know what? Even Maguire, though, like to be honest, like even Maguire, like the treatment, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy again because it's like, has he been bad? Yes. Does he live up to an £80 million player? No. But he's also a player that the more and more this happens, the worse and worse he gets and plays. And he's like, we know his level. Like, we know he's not this bad. And it's all because the media just won't leave him alone. Players won't leave him alone, ex-players. And it's so funny because, like, I had a couple of, like, other, like, throwaway ones. And one of the ones was Messi versus Ronaldo. I hate it. I'm so over it. I'm just done with it. We never grew up
totally in a Ronaldo. Exactly.
Yeah. But what drives me crazy about this is how, like, even ex-players and pundits and stuff jump on people as well. Like
Yeah.
they used to
Oh,
be
yeah.
professional themselves, and like you see it reflected on his face, like you see it on Harry
Yeah.
Maguire's face, and it's like
Yeah.
it's too much, man. It's too
I-
It's
much.
worrying,
Like
man.
I
It's worrying.
legitimately, I read an article about this and it was really interesting. And maybe you would have a perspective on this being a Liverpool fan. And it was basically highlighting that when United were strong, the former players that were getting jobs as pundits were the previous generation that was strong, which were Liverpool players.
Mhm.
So Liverpool players were becoming guys on camera and would basically shit on Liverpool players because they weren't up to the standard that they expected of Liverpool.
Yeah.
And that kind of pressure of
It
having
did.
pundits always talking about you existed. And it was maybe something that hurt the Liverpool team, whereas United didn't have that. And then United became successful. And then that generation became pundits. And now you can see it constantly. Guys like Paul Scholes are basically just there to shit on anybody who's wearing the badge that's not having a good day. And sometimes he's nice about it, sometimes he's not, but like he's just there to bluntly say they're not Man United quality. They would never have made the team when we were winning. And it's like, it's better TV to shit on something than to praise something.
You know what's better TV?
But it
as
hurts
well?
the club. Like it's these pundits
Yeah.
who report on their old team. I don't know. It makes me not like Paul Scholes. And I loved him as a player, but like he's an
Of
example
course.
of like, and I can't say it's a modern football thing because, like I said, like I think that did exist previously when Liverpool players were the pundits of the time.
But it's probably worse now.
Yeah, but like,
But
yeah,
not
I
to
think
this
worse now
level.
because
Yeah.
even if Paul Scholes said something and it's like a small thing that could be interpreted different ways, immediately clickbaited, it's out of context, or that one thing gets framed as being part of a bigger conclusion. A criticism of Rashford becomes a sweeping damnation of his ability. But if you were to watch the entire broadcast, he probably just said something simple like, yeah, he's better than that. He had a really shitty game. And then the headline the next day is he's a shitty player.
Yeah, it's also kind of worrying as well. And I think it doesn't get talked about enough. You know, Paul Scholes was an unbelievable football player. And so we put up with an obvious thing. We had to look at him. Now we have the choice to, he's not on the pitch and we don't have to look at him. And there are people that aren't meant to be on TV. And Paul Scholes is one of them. He has the personality of a radio and he has the look of a newspaper. So I don't really get why we're having to endure him. I don't think I've ever watched Paul Scholes as a pundit and actually enjoyed anything he said. I just found it very kind of blur. And it's kind of, it's frightening to me. But I think you want a great example of what we're saying, and really to back it up is John Stones. You know, John Stones was being absolutely torn apart by the media. There was an awful lot happened. I remember listening to an interview with his ex. It really not great. Like does not paint him well at all. And he was getting a lot of attack. You know, he wasn't performing like for England and stuff like that. And then he was dropped, and it was like, oh well, he's done now at City, isn't he? He's done. And then all of a sudden, the media turns its attentions elsewhere. He starts getting back into the squad, and he's absolutely killing it. Like he was clean sheeting, he was getting, he was back in the England lineup, and realistically, John Stones has got to be one of the lead contenders for a starting centre back now for England, when fit, because he is playing fantastic and he has been. So I think it's absolutely, and for me, I've always found it very, very disrespectful to players when they go at them. And Harry Maguire, the disrespect by both United fans, outside of United fans, whether you think he's worth a price tag, he's still a human being, and he's still someone he's a good defender. Like, I know he's not been playing well, and in regards to his valuation, I remember a United fan put it a different way once when they signed him. And so, Van Dijk was playing out of his skin, and obviously still is fantastic. He said, well, okay, well, based on the crazy transfers that we're seeing now, what would you say Van Dijk's worth? I said, man, to get Van Dijk at his age, with what he brings to the team straight away, you'd probably expect 140, 150. He said, okay, so that's about half of what we've paid for Maguire. So he says, do you think Maguire is at least half the player of Van Dijk? I went, okay, yeah, I'd say he actually is. So when I actually considered it like that, it was an interesting way of looking at it.
That's true.
Yeah. No, you didn't. It definitely wasn't.
It was very wise.
I think it was Connie, actually. It definitely wasn't Connie.
And
so, yeah.
Listen, Maguire is a great example of a guy who maybe got buried.
Can he come
a lot
good
of that is old school paparazzi stuff too, like getting arrested in Greece, getting banged up and getting drunk and then get like shakedown. Like that's some stuff that he's put on himself. He put himself under that microscope and then just never got
I think
under
he
it.
ended up in a situation where he had to. Like from what I heard from it.
Hey, listen,
They
moral of the
saw
story:
who he
don't go to
was,
Greece,
and they
don't
went
get
in.
drunk in Greece, don't whatever. But
Or you can hang out
my
with Jack
bigger
Grealish.
concern, as much as I kind of look at it as being Maguire's a man, he should be able to handle this. He's had a chance to not be under this limelight, figure it out. My bigger concern is when this shit happens to the young players.
Yeah.
Because I do think, they're the guys who are on social media. They're the guys who are probably still using the platforms to communicate to their mates. And when they're being tagged and, they're getting millions of followers or they're like the trending topic of the day, that's either really seemingly good because it could be something great or it could be something terrible that they're associated with. But even if it's something great, modern football players maybe think they've made it because of that. Modern football players maybe think the end goal is to get that level of fame or to get that level of followers or to be able to slide into any model's DM and like get a date. You know what I mean? Like, because they're young men. Like they're not meant to feel famous without having earned the right to be famous. But social media can make you famous in a day. And I just feel like you kind of see that with some young players where they're like, just put your head down and keep working. You have not made it yet. No. And I get the sense sometimes, especially with English players, because I think the beast wants to bring them up and smack them down in equal parts.
It's a thing,
Yeah, and I think some guys are smart about it. Even like Phil Foden's like an example of a guy who did something stupid, but is insulated and protected and lets his football do the talking and has been managed well out of certain situations. But then I think there's a lot of players that they just don't stay hungry because social media is giving them a snack.
Okay, I got to shoot off, folks. So I'm just going to do the leave studio here. This was awesome.
Let's just end it, boys. Let's just end it. That's it. Let's call it.
Okay, mic drop.
Canada wins Jamaica 2-1 on Sunday.
And
after qualifying by beating Costa Rica 3-1.
And that would be great news for Canada, and great news for you guys is that we are again just offering you 20% off a Manscaped product with free delivery, and it comes with just so many great things, Paul. So many great. The Crop Preserver ball deodorant. There's many parts of my body I know needed it, but my balls, and I'm telling you, I feel them now, and they're floating. They're floating in a soft, velvety feel. It's a beautiful thing, and the Lightning will be available on our Instagram. I've decided that it's not worth getting taken down after we've spent so long.
No, we're doing the reveal. Ready, guys? And here comes Show Your Nuts.
This is the North End. This is the North End.